College Football 26 video game is about to drop, and I cannot wait for it, man. It's going to be awesome. EA, though, in the anticipation of this game dropping, much like they did a season ago, started to release some different information around the game. And the list they put out the other day was the toughest places to play in College Football 26. Notice, not the loudest, toughest places to play. Okay, so a couple quick takeaways. I think they got 1 and 2 right with LSU and Penn State up there. Ohio Stadium feels maybe like a touch too high. All right, now I'm just saying this because of that's what Ohio State fans have said to me. Like, hey, Penn State, we get dialed in. Michigan, we get dialed in. Other games, though, like when Bowling Green rolls into town, I don't think people necessarily tab Ohio Stadium as the most formidable place to play. Just what's being said, and I can honestly just take their word for it. I don't understand how Neyland and Autzen, Tennessee and Oregon stadiums, respectively, are not top 5. That's confusing to me. Also, Kyle Field at 11. The whole thing is a little bit confusing. So, one, make sure you're subscribed. All right, college football, nothing but college football year-round. We'll have more content around this game as we get closer and closer. I got a treat for y'all, man. Treat for you. Hey, this is first time on the show with this kind of goatee steez. All Sun Belt, 2-time alley runner at safety, Kaden Smith. We call him Kato. Kato, what's up, brother? The goatee, man. I just want people to revel in this for a second. If you're on podcast, you're missing out. It's clean, man. Very, very clean. How we doing, baby?
Doing good. Appreciate it, JD. I think some of us in the office are celebrating Goatee June. We tried to get you on board. We had a little hint of it during your vacation, but you didn't see it through. But had to switch things up. So, it is what it is. I kind of like the look. I'm vibing with it. We'll see if it lasts beyond the month of June. But more importantly, excited for this game coming out in July. And these toughest places to play for sure. An interesting list to look at.
It's gonna blast the algorithm, bro. And also, I couldn't go goatee June when you're rocking that, bro. Just, full transparency. But there's a lot to unpack. We say this like anytime you make a list, you've already lost because people are going to tell you how ridiculous your list is. Shout out Big Game Boomer for just pushing through for the rest of college football Twitter for a long time doing that. But the Swamp at 7. Jordan Hare, not even in the top 10 for Auburn. There's a lot of just eyebrow-raising stuff to me, dude. Like, there's a couple of venues that I feel like the reputation precedes them to where I don't know what this is all based off of for EA. Like, loudest, sure, but, you've played at 2 of these top 5, dude, between Beaver Stadium and Sanford Stadium. Like, any objections, any takes here on how this whole thing came together? What were your big notes?
Yeah, I think before getting into those 2 stadiums specifically in my experience there, I think you touched to the most important part of this, which is, are we valuing, what is the metric that gets to this point? Is it how loud a stadium is? Do we have people in EA coming in and listening to the decibel level? Are we seeing how sold out these stadiums are? Are we looking at the results? Because the reputation, like you mentioned, does precede itself with some of these stadiums. I looked back and actually saw what they released last year before the season versus compared to this season, and there's some staggering stuff. Lane Stadium was in this top 25. Now they're not on there anymore, and that's a classic kind of any given week you're going to get a good vibe there. They had a decent record at home last year. Georgia hasn't lost a game in Sanford Stadium since 2019. So it's do you value the environment there? Same with Alabama. Alabama dropped from 2 to 5 compared to last year, and they didn't lose a home game. So it's okay, Ohio State hasn't lost to a team not named Michigan in Ohio Stadium since 2021. So it's how much are we valuing the record versus the reputation? I think there's a sweet spot to be found for sure. But overall, I think I have more of a problem, honestly, with the very bottom of the list. How does I think the rule should be if you lost 9 games, you shouldn't be on here. Stillwater, awesome environment, awesome place. You win your first 3 games of the season, Oklahoma State. You lose the last 9. I don't think you should be in the top 25. Davis Wade, more cowbell. I respect it. You lost 10 games last year. Even Carter Finley Stadium, NC State sneaks into this thing, and they beat one team at home this year that was Power 4, and that was Stanford. So, I don't get how they're getting to this point. I think the middle is kind of hairy. I think you can talk about a Neyland Stadium. I had some of my teammates that, when I redshirted at App State, played in Neyland Stadium. They said there was nothing like it. Penn State's the loudest stadium I've ever been in personally, but it's kind of back to what we were talking about before. The Penn State game we played, it was an insane game. We went into overtime. It's the loudest I've ever heard a stadium ever be. Then we returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and it got as quiet as I've ever heard it. So I feel like I got a good contrast there. Playing in between the hedges was great. They went to a national championship this year. I would rather not play that team ever again. Like those Georgia teams, that's when they kind of started to get their juice. But the stadium vibes, I think, were much better at Beaver Stadium. But it's a very interesting thing, I think, to break down. And I think EA, it'd be cool to see them get more into detail about how they got to this point.
And I feel like, too, so much of it is the circumstances around your respective game. Like, Ohio State fans have been begging and pleading to get more night games. And maybe if they have more night games, we see Ohio even be higher than they were on this list. Or Ohio State, I should say, have the shoe even higher than they were on this list. Because, like, we rolled in there for the game in 2022 against Michigan and the game against Penn State in 2023, I want to say it was. Both atmospheres were, like, at noon, but absolutely awesome. I can only imagine what it's like for a night game there, but also, like, to your point, how many intense, like, non-conference games is Ohio State playing outside of the noon window? Just, like, how many big games do you have to get up for if you're an Ohio State fan? So that whole thing is interesting. Neyland Stadium, I'm with you, dude. Like, that stadium's just, it's weird to say, stadium's just tall. Like, it's on top of you, bro. It's like, it's nuts. I was actually very okay with having Memorial Stadium there in the top 10. I think they're at number 6, actually, is Clemson. That's a spot where Florida State came to town for a game. Like, that's also the other part. I'm all over the place here. I've only been to so many of these stadiums. So some of it I'm, like, going off the broadcast. Some of it I'm going off of, like, my own personal experience in a one-off setting. But the game that we went to for Clemson when Florida State rolled into town, noon kick, super hot, everything on the line for Clemson. Like, their student section showed out all the way through. It was a great game. It was back and forth. Ended up losing the game, but, like, they gave you all you wanted and then some. There's a lot here, bro. Kyle Field at 11. What was your takeaway there? They were number 1 when this thing dropped last year. How do you go from 1 to 11 after, like, a solid season?
Yeah, I mean, their regular season was bookended by a home loss to Notre Dame and a home loss to Texas, but I don't think there's any fault in that. Like, those are 2 of the 4 teams that were left at the end of the playoff, and I think you could kind of look at their season and what they did and point to specific moments where the home field advantage worked in their favor. I mean, when they were playing LSU and Marcel Reed comes in the game and they get injected with new life, and even before the game when Texas came into town, you mentioned it. We're not going to all be able to go to all of these games, but sure. I think there are, like, palpable moments during this season, and I never check too much about how these rankings change throughout the season. But you mentioned Neyland Stadium too, like beating Alabama at home the way they did. That should stand out. Same with Oregon with Autzen Stadium. That Ohio State game, a key narrative in that game was the fourth quarter, how loud it was, and how Ohio State wasn't able to communicate and execute the same way they probably would have been able to when they were home. So I think them being at 9, I think they deserve more of a bump there too. So I agree. It is hard to figure out. And because of that, I would just like to know the background of it. I remember back in the Sunbelt podcasting days, we interviewed a guy, I think his at name on X or Twitter is CFB Campus Tour or something like that.
Ooh,
it's the guy who's been to every single stadium. You can find him on Twitter really easily. He does a ton of interviews and stuff. We need to get that guy in the room. This is a guy who's literally been to every single stadium and can probably tell you what one is from the other and just all the factors that go into it. I love for the record to be a part of it, the actual loudness of the stadium, the key moments, the history of it obviously matters too, because you got to think about it. If you go into a dynasty mode, say, and you're at Wisconsin and they didn't have too hot of a year, but all of a sudden you're reaping the rewards as a dynasty if you're the head coach or a coordinator there and your team's rolling and Wisconsin's 0-8 to start the year, you're going to get that kind of top tier level of jump around in the stadium pulse that you deserve. So I think the history should matter too, but at the end of the day, it's a very touchy subject, I feel like, with specific fan bases especially, and it's just something else for us to talk about the offseason and look forward to in the game. Like
if we were doing a draft, we've been known to do a couple drafts on the show. If we were doing a draft of like places that you would not want to play at, I have a hard time seeing Florida and the Swamp fall all the way to number 7, and I have a hard time seeing the Shoe off the board at 3, or seeing Neyland Stadium make it all the way down to 12, or like, you know, there's a lot here where I'm curious to see, like you said, how it evolves throughout the course of the entire season. Any other thoughts on this, Kaden, before we let the people go?
I am excited for this game. That is my thought. That's the only thought I have. I can't wait to play in all these stadiums. A lot of new faces. We have coaches now in these stadiums as well. I can't watch Dabo run down that hill. Like, I'm just pumped for this game, man. I know the dialogue with this can get a little toxic, and lot of back and forth on Twitter about this stuff, but I'm just ready for the game.
Here for it, bro. I'm all the way here for it. I'm right there with you, brother. Well, we're right around the corner, man. It's going to get here very, very soon. The best goatee in sports media. I said it, Jim Rome. No shots fired, but just like the facts are the facts.